Ankit ji, just one second only.
Okay, hello everyone, and welcome back to the Knowledge Hub session. And we are starting today a legal week. And this entire program is organized by Jhansi Smart City and Rise Jhansi Incubation Center. और आज हमारे साथ एज अ एक्सपर्ट ललित जी ज्वाइन हुए हैं. So Lalit ji, welcome you on behalf of Rise Jhansi Incubation Center.
Thank you so much, Ankit ji, for inviting on
Uh,
this wonderful platform.
Yes, I think you need 1 minute time to set up the tech part. Yes, please take it.
Yes, yes.
And
Only 1 minute.
meanwhile, all the viewers, sorry for the 10-minute delay. So, after successful completion of Tech Week and the Marketing Week, from today onwards, we are starting a legal workshop for all the Rise registered startups. So to perform your business with the full potential and to make it scalable, you need to perform all your process, all your duties under the legal procedure. So by this 5 days workshop, we have a objective to aware you what are the different formats of business and what are the required compliances as per your startup categories. तो हम लोग इन 5 डेज में सीखेंगे कि कौन सा बिजनेस कैटेगरी में रजिस्टर्ड होना आपके लिए बेनिफिशियल है एंड अकॉर्डिंग टू दैट कैटेगरी कौन कौन से कंप्लाइंसेस आपको मैंडेटरी करना होता है. So, Mr. Lalit Rajput is a manager at DS Group, and he is practicing legal expertise and very proud to share that he is the founder of weekly magazine called Saksham, जिसके द्वारा ये लोगों को लीगल कंप्लाइंसेस एंड लीगल एक्सपर्टीज के बारे में अवेयरनेस भी करते हैं. So once again, very thanks to Lalit for giving your time here. And yeah, over to you. Please start your session.
Okay, so thank you, Ankit ji, and a very thankful to this Rise Jhansi Smart City. Okay, for giving me this wonderful platform to give input about this formation and compliance related things to you. Okay, so as we have already did it by, I can say, 10-12 minutes, so I can directly initiate my presentation, and thereafter if someone have any query or something, then we will definitely get in touch with me, right? So the topic which has been given to me on this very first day of this legal workshop is entity formation and compliances, where I would like to make you understand about the different types of business entities which needs to be formed, and also the key compliance requirement for each type of business. And we would also, get into the deep type of policies and mandatory disclosure which needs to be adhered by every entity. And moreover, because this year is all about this startup budding. The startup is going on since last 5 years on a phenomenal pace, right? I mean, every company, or I can say every owner or entrepreneur wants to register their own startup and would like to go for funding. This is the criteria, and the government norms are also, promoting these startups by giving fundings and ease into compliance norm, and also to the giving some more, I can say funding through banks also. For example, if you have some uh, uniqueness in your business, then you can definitely go for the startup funding. So now we can initiate with this topic of the day. So I mean, I have divided this topic into five, I can say, different category. The first thing is all about the introduction to these business forms, which include all kinds of business forms, and then thereafter we will go with the specific business forms, which are, I can say, more important from the startup point of view, right? And thereafter we will discuss about this various license requirement which a business need on depending upon the business part and also to the size of the organizations. And thereafter we will talk about this incorporation registered documents norms which are required on a general basis, because there are specific requirement for all kinds of businesses, but always there is a general thing which needs to be there while creating a business platform. And the fourth one, we will discuss about the compliance discussions, like what kind of compliance needs to be done by one person company, private companies, I can say the companies, I mean foreign companies, and also to the OPC and all, right? And the fifth one is If you have any question or something with respect to the any of the license introduction part, business forms, how you can set up a business, thereafter compliance discussion, and I mean, what kind of business we need to do to, I mean, I can say where the compliance cost will be minimal, that we can also discuss about. So I'm initiating with this, starting with this business structures. So the first thing which we always needs to think, whenever we are, I can say, going for any sort of business, then we are always thinking why we need to form this business, and what kind of aspects, the crucial notes while choosing a right business entity. Right? There are multiple questions in your mind that should I go for a private limited company? Should I go for a LLP? Should I go for compliance? I can say cost related issues, or should I go for some startup related matters and all, right? So whenever you are defining any, I can say, business entity, then you need to adhere about, I can say, 5 6 pointers from the financial point of view, from the business point of view, from this startup point of view also, and also the major thing is the future growth, right? For example, if you are going with this startup related matters, then we always suggest to incorporate a private limited company rather than going through LLP or a partnership firm. The reason is quite simple, because the investors are having a mood to invest and on the equity from yourself, and the private limited company is the only form of business which have the this, I can say, equity shares in their own, right? Partnership firm don't have the equity, and this LLP also don't have, right? So while choosing your entity, you must aware the legal structure and liability. You must are there that what kind of structure you need to form. For example, if you are having two persons, right? You have an option to create LLP, option to create a private limited company, and you are also having an option to go for OPC, one person company. So in that, there are business various forms are there, and in that thing you need to aware that what kind of business you need to choose, what kind of funding you need to go for, and what kind of registration license requirement and the compliance norms are there, right? And the impact of funding and investment opportunity is very much high. For example, the if you are going to invest in any of the organization, then you must need 2 3 things. The first thing, what kind of equity, or I can say the share ratio I will get. The second thing, what is the responsibility of the business owners, right? In one person company, there is only one person who need to take all these things, and the limited liability, there are no shares. But in case of a company, private limited entity, the directors, I can say, I mean, the promoters having the liability dividend to shares, and also they are having the equity to share with you. And thereafter, the moreover thing, the taxation part. Whenever you are choosing a business, I can say, platform or business structure, you must adhere that under which structure you need to pay the minimum taxation. Or I can say, in future, if your growth is exponential, for example, after 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year, then what kind of business structure will help you out? So if you are going for startups, as we are already discussing all things with respect to the startup only, so in a startup you are getting an angel tax exemption also for your private limited entity. In the last, in 10 years of incorporation, you can get these exemptions, right? And thereafter, you have to suggest, I can suggest, or choose your business on the basis of your expansion. I have already told, the business is having the exponential growth in futures, right? There's a reason whenever any startup incorporate and go for funding, they are always giving their projections on, I can say, future terms, right? And the last one is case scaling for long term sustainability. Okay, the business is what I can say, once the same has been incorporated or registered, and it must have in the capability of scaling on a larger scale, and also the sustain. And for sustainability and scaling, we need 2 3 things. The first thing, we need cash liquidity or funding. The cash or liquidity or funding, I can say, the basis for any of the business. And the second one is your compliance status. If a company is complied with all the laws and regulation, then in good terms, after due diligence, the investor will definitely invest in your organization. Otherwise, they will refrain to, I can say, invest the money into your organizations. Right. So this is all a sort of gist, I can say. When you are going for any business selection of any business entity or a structure, then you must adhere. And after this, the major, I can say, one more thing is there, I can say, which is the liability part, which we have in the first point, that what is your liability while incorporating this business, right? Whether it is unlimited or limited to the particular number of shares, or particular number, or I can say particular, or is there any sort of adjustment is there or not? if I'm going through the various types of business which we have formed, there are multiple type of organizations are there, which include a sole proprietorship, that means single person company you can create, right? And partnership form which could be registered or unregistered, right? Thereafter, limited liability partnership which must be registered with the MCA, Ministry of Corporate Affairs, right? Thereafter, one more sort of business is there, private limited companies, and that is also needs to be registered with the Ministry of Corporate Affairs. And this thereafter one more form is there called one person companies. This also needs to be registered with Ministry of Corporate Affairs. Then there are Section 8 companies, and then public limited company registered with MCA. And if the shares of a public limited company are registered listed on a recognized stock exchange, that company will convert it into a listed company, which is registered on the SEBI. And thereafter joint venture company, then corporation, liaison office, branch office, NGOs, HUF, I can say, right? So there are multiple form of organizations are there, business structures are there under which you can create organizations, right? But on the basis of partner, I can say on the basis of this startup point of view, okay, we have identified, I can say this particularly blue tick organizations like partnership from registered LLPs, private limited companies. One person companies also could be registered into this startup and the affectionate company also to under the Startup India scheme and get recognized as a DPPIT. So now we would like to go for this entity which under the Startup India scheme. Okay. So I can say sole proprietorship form, partnership form, private limited, section 8, one person, public limited. These are the, I can say, type of organization which could be registered with the Startup India schemes. Okay. So first thing is sole proprietorship. The sole proprietorship is not allowed to be get registered over Startup India platform. You can create your account through the sole proprietorship, or I can say through the HUF related businesses, but you cannot go for getting recognition of DPPIT, recognized as a Startup India registered entity. You can only create your account there. Okay. On the basis of partnership form, if I can say, this is also easy to form, low minimum compliances are there. And on account of partnership form, if a partnership form is registered with the registrar of forms of specific state, only then it is eligible to get registered or get recognized as a DPPIT over the Startup India and the Startup India scheme. If it is unregistered, then I can say it is not allowed by Startup India platform to get registered. Thereafter, I can say private limited companies. This is the popular, I can say, one sort of business which is attracting the investors, and because they are having a limited liability by the directors or I can say shareholders, and the scalability is better, I can say the growth is better in terms of other businesses, and also this is a recognized, I can say, type of a form of structure of business which in the eyes of investors, and this is allowed to get registered over a Startup India scheme as a and recognized under the DPPIT. And I can say charitable organization, Section 8 companies. So most of the charitable organization and NGOs, I can say, are created only to get the tax benefit, okay, and also to promote for some specific purposes, right? And the sole entrepreneur with growth plan, for example, OPC is also allowed. OPC is a one person company, is a one kind of private limited company, and this sole one person company is the name. I mean, only then by name it is. I mean, I can say it is recognized as this is a one man company, but this is not a one man company. Apart from this director, one director, we also need a nominee. For example, in case of death of the director, who is the only one director in that company, then the nominee will take care of these things, right? So in the one person company, still two person are required. The first one is director, second one is nominee. So it's better to create a private limited company instead of going with the OPC, right? From the compliance point of view also. And this large entity called public limited entities or companies, the public limited companies are good to go, but under the Startup India scheme, they are not allowed to get recognized under the DPPIT schemes. And now we can go for the compliance part. So the sole, can say compliance requirement for the sole proprietorship are very few. For example, if you are going to incorporate sole proprietor, that means one man type of organization, which is not registered anywhere, right? But if you want to go for a sole proprietorship, you need certain business proof just to establish the relationship with your business, right? So first one is if your turnover is up to a certain limit which is identified under the MSME scheme, not more than 250 crore. And then go for the MSME registration and shop and establishment registration. Thereafter, after you can also get the GST registration certificate with you. You need to file this income tax as a on an individual basis. The tax rate will be as applicable on any individual on sole proprietorship. Thereafter, you can go for annual compliance filing. There is no requirement because the sole proprietorship is not registered with the MCA, Ministry of Corporate Affairs. It's the unregistered form of business. There is no need to maintain any annual compliance except the income tax filings, right? And also the GST filing if you have taken the GST registration certificate. And this is more suitable is for, I guess, the freelancers, moderate small scale businesses which does not need to pay any amount for the registration or incorporation cost, or want to do any sort of filing on annual basis, just to safeguard the cost, right? If they want to go for some on a larger scale, then there is a provision they can go for partnership from which is registered, and they can also go for the private limited company or LLPs, right? So I can say sole proprietorship organization or form of business is one of the easiest form to incorporate, and there are much minimal compliances are there. That too on the basis of event. For example, if you have taken the GST, you can need to file the GST return.
Lalit,
Okay, now yes, sir.
uh, yeah. So on this basis, जो sole proprietorship registration है, let's say MSME registration है,
Yes.
startup will get the benefit of opening their bank account by the entity name जो MSME के फॉर्मेट में उन्होंने रजिस्टर्ड किया है, उस
Under
एंटिटी
the
के नेम उनका
okay,
बैंक
so
अकाउंट ओपन
under
हो जाएगा.
yeah, under the MSME, I can say MSME. If you want for the MSME, you need to create the current account, right? You need to give the detail of current account. But if you are doing a sole proprietorship, you can go with the GST registration first, and on the basis of GST registration, you can get this, I can say, MSME also. And while mentioning the GST, you can give your trade name. The same you can give at the time of MSME also, right? Because first you need to apply for GST for the same, so that you can have a business proof with you. The first one is GST, and the second one is your PAN card that you can apply there. Because when you are going for this bank account opening, they will ask you minimum two, I can say, ID proofs at least, right? And once you
Okay,
get the, I can say, this GST registration certificate and MSME, then you can put the bank details into that, and complete the registration process also. But this
right.
sole proprietorship is not allowed to get recognized under the Startup India scheme.
यस यस. अल्दो
Yeah.
इनिशियल स्टेज में अगर स्टार्टअप आइडिएशन स्टेज में है और उसको इनिशियल कुछ ट्रांजैक्शन करना है, तो दे कैन
Hmm.
डू इट इन द बिगिनिंग ओनली.
They can do
सो
it to the beginning, and also if they want, they can get MSME, and also they can apply for the trademark on the basis of sole proprietor.
ओह
They can
दैट्स
register their trademark, or I can say copyright, patent, anything on the IPR part, right?
एंड इज देयर एनी पीस ऑफ रजिस्टर सोल प्रोप्राइटरशिप, एमएसएमई का
Um,
कोई.
no, no, there is no compliance over them for MSME for with respect to the filing or something. There is no need to make any sort of compliances under the MSME. Only one thing is there: whenever they are making any sort of contract, or I can say any sort of agreement or arrangement with any of the party, they must need to provide their MSME registration certificate and number to them, just for the purpose that whenever they are making any payment, that must be done within the due timeline as provided under the MSME Act.
राइट.
For example, the maximum criteria for MSME is like 45 days, right? So any payment which needs to be made to the MSME, I can say registered entity, that must be done within 45 days, not beyond that. And that I mean, this must be I mean, communicated to the parties to whom they are contracting. Okay. Hello.
यस यस, प्लीज कंटिन्यू.
Okay. So now let me move further with respect to this partnership firm. So if I'm going to the partnership firm, there are two types of partnership firm. The first one, which is registered one, and the second one is, I can say, unregistered. So if your partnership firm is registered with the registrar of firms of the state, thereafter you are eligible to get that recognized under the Startup India scheme. A registered partnership is allowed to get registered and recognized as a DPPIT registered entity. So on the count of partnership form, still there are minimum compliances. Like the first one is GST registration, if applicable, and after getting the registration, you need to file the details or returns on event basis, or I can say monthly and or even timely basis. But thereafter, this ITR, income tax return, which needs to be filed on a due date as a business perspective. And from the audit point of view, if your I can say turnover of the registered turnover of the firm is more than 1 crore, only then audit is mandatory from the other accountants. And as this partnership firm is not registered with the MC or I guess the Ministry of Corporate Affairs, there is no need to file any sort of annual compliances with them. And the major benefit of this kind of business is the part and the partnership firm, the ratio is quite I can say profit sharing ratio is already divided into all the partners, and all are liable up to their particular shares only. And you can also go for the unregistered partnership form, but only one thing: if you get it recognized under the DPPIT, then this must needs to be registered with the registrar of firm. Any question into that?
अगेन फॉर पार्टनरशिप फर्म, अगर किसी
Yes.
स्टार्टअप को पार्टनरशिप फर्म करना है, सो इन
Hmm.
जनरल बेसिक फीस क्या होती है, इंक्लूडिंग द फीस ऑफ प्रोफेशनल एंड
Okay.
एनी फीस ऑफ गवर्नमेंट?
ओके, सो अगर आपको पार्टनरशिप फॉर्म इनकॉर्पोरेट करनी है, राइट, सो इन दैट केस फर्स्ट थिंग आपको एक पार्टनरशिप डीड बनानी पड़ेगी, राइट, द ऑल द पार्टनर, देन दिस मस्ट नीड टू बी साइन बाय ऑल द पार्टनर्स. देर आफ्टर नोटरी कराना उसको, एंड देर आफ्टर इफ यू वांट कि उसको रजिस्टर कराना है रजिस्ट्रार ऑफ फॉर्म्स में, देन दिस कुड बी आल्सो पार्ट ऑफ प्रोफेशनल फी एंड जीएसटी इफ यू रिक्वायर, राइट. एज ऑफ नाउ कई सारे बिजनेसेस ऐसे हैं जो विदाउट जीएसटी आपके साथ काम करना नहीं चाहेंगे. So this become mandatory for a certain point of view, right? क्योंकि जो big organization है और I can say organization जो already scale up कर चुकी हैं, they just want to be compliant. And as of now vendors की कोई कमी नहीं है market में, suppliers की कोई कमी नहीं है. For example, if you are a supplier for a particular product and the company wants a GST supplier, then you need to must get registered yourself into the GST, right? And फिर वो GST के compliances आपके ऊपर applicability हो जाएगी, right? And other than this, after crossing 1 CR turnover, then this audit is mandatory, and you can get it get your account audited from the chartered accountant, right? So a basic to initiate a partnership firm, only this I can say partnership deed is required. And if you want to get recognized, or I can say want it to mandatory register with the registrar of firms, thereafter you can go with the same. So expenses would be like if you want to just initiate the business without registration, then only the partnership deed is required. And thereafter, आप जितना add on करते जाएंगे from the compliance point of view, the compliance code will be like this. And
ओके,
after this, I can say making this partnership form, the first thing, or I can say the post incorporation compliances, which include, first you need to sign the agreement with the parties. Thereafter, you can apply for the MSME registration, right? Then thereafter, you can go for the fundings, or I can say apply for this MSME schemes for getting the funding from the banks or something, right? So that also be a part of, I can say, this compliance norms.
ओके, थैंक यू.
And thereafter we can come with the LLP. Okay, so LLP is a mixture of, I can say, company and the partnership firms, right? So the same, there are certain, I can say, norms which are applicable to this partnership firm are also applicable to this LLPs. Okay, the first thing is LLP is registered with this Ministry of Corporate Affairs. Okay, as a registered entity, and the LLP identification number is given to all the registered LLPs, and those, I can say, designated partners are there. They are called as designated partners, and they are holding a number called designated partner identification number, DPIN. This is similar to DIN number, direct identification number. Only this term is different. Otherwise, both are similar in nature. DIN and DIPIN are both are same. Okay, so the first thing, LLP agreement to be filed with the MC. The first thing I can say, you need to get your LLP registered with the MCA. Okay, and after registration, you need to file this LLP agreement. Okay, LLP agreement is quite few similar like this partnership form agreement. Only this I can say registration related clauses are needs to be incorporated into this LLP agreement. And also after getting this LLP agreement, you also need to apply for the PAN card. Okay, with the authority. And after this, on into the annual compliances, the two forms are there, Form 8 and Form 11. These are the compliance which has to be done to this MCA portal, Ministry of Corporate Affairs. Thereafter, income tax return filing as usual. This needs to be done, and GST registration requirement is there only if you cross a certain sort of turnover limit. And after this, audit is mandatory if turnover exceeds 40 lakh. If your turnover has exceeded the 40 lakh rupees term, then this audit requirement is mandatory, and you need to file the income tax return on for business income on timely basis. And the most thing about the LLP is, first thing, LLP is recognized under the Startup India scheme to get themselves registered under the DPPIT scheme and get the status of a startup. And also having this LLPs are enjoying the separate legal entity. That simply means the partners, registered partners are liable for up to their limit, or I can say up to their ratio into this LLP. Right. So LLP is far better than partnership firms, but I can say only the one drawback is there in LLPs. You cannot find this share capital. Contribution is there, not share capital is there. So from investor point of view, those who want to invest in your company and want to get equity just to hold out in future terms on a higher note, this is not I mean possible in this LLPs, right? So although it is a popular type of I mean business form into the India, and also recognized by startup to get recognized at DPPIT, but it's still having this drawback. This form of business is not much feasible for the entrepreneurs to register and go for the startups. I mean startup fundings and all, right? So if I'm talking about this, I mean, is there any query into this LLP also, sir?
uh, just I want your remark on the costing part, like
Okay.
स्टार्टअप को कितना एक जनरल कॉस्ट लगता है एलएलपी रजिस्टर्ड करने के लिए.
Okay, so costing, I can say after discussing with all, I can say form of businesses, we will discuss costing for all kind of businesses. For example, sole proprietorship, LLPs, partnership forms. The major part is I can say the professional fees only. Okay,
Okay.
which could be different from professional to professional, and moreover, the government fees is very least. It's up to the I can say type. I mean the amount of contribution or amount of capital, paid up capital, and also this I can say if the directors are new, then we must apply for their DIN, we must apply for the designation. This will increase the cost, right?
Okay.
Then we can discuss that what kind of documentation requirement is there, mostly for the LLPs and companies, and how the things will start. That how we can initiate this incorporation procedure. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, one more clarity to all our startups. uh, जब आप LLP या इसके onwards legal entity registered होते हैं, then only our government consider you as a startup. Then only they will
Yes.
provide you a startup certificate.
Yes.
Okay, please continue.
So now if we can move on to this private limited companies, which are the compliance requirement also. Okay, so the private limited companies is I can say most popular type of a structure among all, including the entrepreneurs and government also. Okay, so if you are going for the private limited company, then I can assure you, I mean this is the most popular uh, the form of business, and also यहाँ पे compliances काफी होंगे, right? Which include event based compliances also, situation based compliance also, and annual filings also, right? So we have prepared a I can say complete draft over the same, but there are major points which are highlighted are there. For example, the first one is it must be registered with the Minister of Corporate Affairs, because with and after getting the registration number, this will get a SIN number, corporate identification number, right? And if you talk about the compliance part, then there are I can say Annual filing include multiple compliances like the first one UC4, that means submission of financial statements, or I can say balance sheet with this MCA. Then MDT7, which include MDT8 also. If your turnover limit is higher, then you need to get a certification from the practicing company secretaries in the form of MDT8, which must be attached to this MDT7. This is annual return form, which needs to be submitted to the ROC on annual basis within, I can say, uh, by 29th, or I can say 60th day from the date of AGM. Whenever your date of AGM done, then after the 60th day you need to file the MDT7, and after the 30th day you need to file the OC4. There is one more compliances which is ADT1. This is regard to the appointment of auditor. So appointment of auditor has to be done for a period of 5 years, and it is there is no ratification or reappointment is required. I mean, for the reappointment there is no need to file the form on every year basis. So you need to appoint auditor for 5 years, and thereafter, if you are changing your auditor, thereafter there is another need to file this ADT one, and that has to be filed within 30 days of AGM. Okay. Other than this, if you're going to the annual compliances, which include the MDT 7, 7A, AOC4, CFS, thereafter CFA 4, and also the cost audit. I mean, this is about the cost audit report. And after this, there is one important compliances which is applicable to all the director, DIN holders, and DIPIN holders, which is DIR3 KYC. If you are a director in any of the company, whether it's a private company, listed company, unlisted company, or producer company, foreign company, then you need to do your KYC on annual basis on or before 30th of September of every year. And the period is started from April 1st onwards. So this is also annual compliance for all the directors. Thereafter, the income tax return filing is there. GST registration applicable only जब आपकी limit एक turnover से cross कर जाए. Okay. And thereafter, the audits of account is also mandatory for them. And other than this, there are multiple laws which include the ESI, EPF, MSME if applicable. If your company is a private limited company, and if they have I can say taken any delivery of goods or services from any MSME registered entity, then the same must be paid within due time as provided under the agreement, or 45 days is the maximum criteria. Otherwise, you need to provide the detail of delayed payments in one of the form called MSME1 to the Ministry of Corporate Affairs, that these payments are due to the MSMEs, and or the same has been paid but with the delay, right? So there is a detail needs to be shared. Other than that, there are multiple forms which we can discuss also. So these are the, I can say, general sort of compliance are there which are applicable to private limited companies. Other than this, majorly compliances are event based. For example, if you have incorporated company, then there is a need to file the conventional certificate rated INC 20, which has to be filed within 180 days of the incorporation, right? So this is all about the private limited companies. And other than this, there are half yearly, monthly, or event based compliances are there. There is nothing is monthly, but half yearly compliances are there, and event based are there, and annual compliances are there, which include the organization of an annual general meeting also, which has to be convened on every year basis. So any questions sir about this private limited companies or thing?
Like the second point is board
Board
meeting
meetings.
every quarter. So
Okay.
इस मीटिंग
There
के जो
is
मिनट
okay.
पॉइंट है, यस, इस मिनट पॉइंट्स हैं जो हमें एमसीए के पोर्टल पे अपडेट करना होता है. So these minute
Okay.
points need to be signed by the professional और केवल डायरेक्टर साइन करके अपलोड कर सकते हैं.
Okay, so this board meeting minutes which have to be draft after the every end of the meeting. Okay, this first thing these has to be governed by the secretarial standard. Okay, SS1 and SS2. The first one is for board meeting. The second one is for general meetings. Okay, and these are the mandatory under Section 117 of Companies Act also. Okay, so while drafting the minutes or annual general meeting minute, convening of any of the meeting, you need to adhere about the quorum. I can see the agendas, quorum, and also to the absence and all. This must be adhered through the SS1 and SS2. Okay, which is the secretary standards which are applicable to board meetings, annual general meetings. Okay, so while drafting the minutes, These minutes must be drafted in a compliant manner, and the same has to be sent to directors also within due time. And these minutes must be signed by the chairman of this meeting. These are not signed by the professional. Board itself elect a member as a chairman of this particular committee meeting, board or NGO, and the minutes must be signed by them.
Okay.
And there is no need to upload these minutes to MCA, or I can say to stock exchange, because these are the internal matters. But yes, if any resolution has been passed, for example, any transaction has been made by the company, for example, there is a purchase of a building at a certain amount, and there is authorization given to some person to sign and negotiate and to enter with the authority for signing the document. This authorization could be given by a company through resolution, and this resolution could be presented to the authority, or I can say management, or I can say to this government authority also. That's the power to sign or to negotiate has been given through this particular law resolution to this person.
Okay.
Yes. So if we talk about the Section 8 companies, this is for non-profit companies. The similar like private limited company, they must be registered with the Minister of Corporate Affairs. And on account of annual filing, there are UC for entity 7 is there. And according to the income tax rule, Section 12 registration, the Section 8 companies are those companies to which the exemption has to be given. Okay, and they must apply it in Section 12A to the income tax department for getting the exemption for this. GST is applicable only if they cross the certain limit, or if they want mandatorily to get GST registration certificate with them. And there is one more thing, to comply with the Foreign Contract Regulation Act of for foreign donations. If you are receiving the donation from outside the borders of India, then you need to comply with the FCRA regulations. And the profit must be used for charitable objectives only, because in their MOA, the memorandum of association, and there must be written all the objects are there which should be charitable in nature. Nothing to earn the money, or I can say to gain the profit and all, right? Because NGO, or I can say non-profit organizations, are opening only for the charitable purposes in nature. So there are less compliances are there in this particular category, this non-profit organization. Just a minute, one more thing. Okay, so I mean, if you talk about the roles of these non-government organizations, I can say after this, this just a minute, this NPO is quite different from the NGO. These are not same. Okay, so the compliances which are applicable on non-profit organizations, these are quite different from the NGO. NGO could be for the various purposes also, and this could be registered with the, I can say, the Trust Tax Societies Act. So any question about this? I can say non-profit,
Uh,
or I can move
yes.
on to the OPC.
Yes,
OPC,
please.
okay. So as a term called OPC, one person company. Okay, so it is a kind of private limited company which has to be registered on this Startup India. Oh, sorry, on Minister of Corporate Affairs, and it is also recognized by Startup India to get recognized as a startup and get a recognized under DPPIT scheme, because it's a private limited company and these are allowed. Okay, so if you're talking about the compliance part, so annual filing is mandatory. AOC for entity 7. Entity 7 is a new form which is included, which has been incorporated for OPCs. And income tax filing as mandatory as applicable to the private limited company. GST as if applicable, and MSME registration certificate it can take. Bank account opening, MSME registration certificate, shop and establishment related, PF and ESIC if the limit of 10-20 employees have been crossed. Auditor appointment if similar like I can say private limited companies. One thing, in OPC there is no need to conduct AGM. AGM section is not applicable on OPC. And the board meeting provision are also resting for these OPC businesses. I mean, there are multiple, I can say, type of compliances which are exempted, or I can say not applicable only to the one person company. The most benefit is this कि एक one person company है, and there is one person also required to formulate this company to act as a nominee on behalf of director. So any question into that?
ललित, जो ओपीसी है
Yes.
और जो प्राइवेट लिमिटेड कंपनी है, फॉर इन्वेस्टमेंट पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू इज देयर एनी डिफरेंस कि ओपीसी में आगे चल के इन्वेस्टमेंट में कुछ प्रॉब्लम आएगा?
ओपीसी
इफ
के इश्यूज ये हैं कि एज वी ऑलरेडी स्टेटेड ना कि इट्स अ वन पर्सन कंपनी टाइप ऑफ बिजनेस, राइट? सो as a investor, you must think the company must go on after death, or I can say some sort of calamity is there. In case of private limited company, there is a higher chance to continue the business without any damage, without any issue, right? So people are like, we need to invest in a private limited company rather than go for OPC. OPC is one person company. There are AGM is not there, right? So how, as a shareholder, this investor can, I can say, give their pointer or something, right? Because after getting the shares, you become a shareholder, but there is no
राइट,
provision to do this kind of AGM into this OPC, and also to the board meetings are also exempted in certain terms, right? So how it can be possible,
राइट, राइट,
right? Okay. So if we go through this important timelines, so for income tax filing, if your accounts are non-audited, then must be done before 31st July, as individuals are filing also on the same time. If the accounts are audited, then you can go with this deadline on 30th of September of every year, right? And on the account of ROC, so in ROC, your date of event is annual general meeting for annual filings. Okay. For example, if you need to file your balance sheets, financial statements to the ROC, then that must be done within 30th day of AGM. So that means if your AGM has been conducted on 30th of September, then the date of event it 30th of September, then the due date will be 29th October, not the 30th one. That I can rectify. So your AOC4 must be filed on or before 29th of October. Similarly, if you are filing for MDT7, which is annual return, the timeline is given within 60th day. So date of event will be 30th of September, then the due date will be 29th of November. The day 1 will be date of event counted as day 1. Only for this, and also for the appointment of auditor. These compliances, ADT1, MGT7, 7A, or AOC4, AOC4 CFS, for these particular compliances and forms, the date of event will be counted as a day 1. Okay, for GST filing, it could be done on monthly, quarterly, depending on the turnover criteria. And the AGM is applicable for private and public company, not applicable on the OPC. The section 96 of Companies Act itself says this is not applicable to the OPC. Okay, and AGM must be done. For the AGM timeline, we need to think what is the last, I can say, date of AGM, कौन सी डेट पे कन्वीन हुई थी. Okay, तो इसका timeline from this financial year and say 6 month and gap between two AGM has to be considered. And after this, we need to identify कि date हमारी क्या होनी चाहिए. In most of the cases, the people are saying 30th of September is the due date. This is not true. We need 30th September, it could be a due date depending upon this section 96. Okay. If we talk about the statutory audit requirement, it is based on the turnover, and the auditor appointment has to be done for the first time by filing the ADT1. And if there is no change in the second year and third and fourth year, then there is no need to file again and again the ADT1. Any query into this compliance part? If now we can discuss for the non-compliance and penalties. Okay. So we have given a bracket for you can say non-compliances. So as we already said, if you are think that compliance is expensive, then you can try the non-compliances, which could be quite high, right? So rather than going for penalty part, okay, it's good you can pay a certain amount of compliance and make your business good. Reason being ना, अगर आपके business में non compliance आते हैं, if any investor came to make any sort of investment, वो एक due diligence कराते ही हैं, right? And in due diligence, if they have seen कि okay this company has done some sort of non compliances, then they may refrain कि भाई हमें investment नहीं करनी है उसमें. There are high chances because every foreign investor, every I can say Indian investor also included, they want a clean sheet company जिसमें कोई इश्यूज क्रिएट ना हो. दैट्स द रीजन कि वो लोग उसकी वैल्यूएशन से पहले ड्यू डिलिजेंस कराना मैंडेटरी समझते हैं. फॉर एग्जाम्पल एनी नॉन कंप्लाइंस इज देयर. फॉर एग्जाम्पल अगर मान लीजिए आपने 5 साल पहले कोई इनकम टैक्स रिटर्न फाइल नहीं की है और आई कैन से कोई केस चलता हुआ है जिसमें डॉक्यूमेंट्स मांगे आपने नहीं दिए हैं, सो आफ्टर मेकिंग इन्वेस्टमेंट अगर कोई ऐसा मैटर क्रिएट होता है तो इट कुड लीड टू ए hefty अमाउंट ऑफ पेनल्टी, राइट? तो उससे बचने के लिए दे आर डूइंग अ ड्यू डिलिजेंस एंड दैट्स व्हाई वी आर सेइंग कि जस्ट pay a minimal amount and do your compliance is good, right? So income tax penalty is there around 5 to 10,000 rupees depending upon this nature. And ROC filing include additional fees also sometimes, right? For example, if you need to file this, I can say AOC4, which is financial statement with the ROC. The due date is 29th October, as we have already discussed in the previous slide. And if you have not done, I can say, filing of the same by 29th, and there is a delay of 10 days. For example, it could lead to 9th September, sorry, 9th November or something. Then the penalty will be double of the filing amount. Plus, you need to pay additional fee per day for AOC 4 and BT7, 81 also. For ROC annual filings, you need to pay the additional fee which is on a per day basis, 100 rupees per day. So if you delay by 2 months, I can say for 60 days it could be like 6,000 additional fee, and which is on per day basis. और उसके अलावा जो आपकी फॉर्म की फीस जो डबल हुई है वो लगेगी ही लगेगी. Okay, so penalty will be high. And for GST you need to pay the interest also. Okay, and also if you have not paid the MSME vendors on time, and if they अगर वो पहुंच जाते हैं MSME समाधान or I can say any of the MSME portal which can help them, in that case for the delayed period आपको आरबीआई के इंटरेस्ट रेट का जो करंट में चल रहा होगा उसका 3 times पेनल्टी लगा के आपको उनकी पेमेंट करनी पड़ेगी. Okay, and if you have not conducted the AGM then you must be penalized, and the officer in default also to be penalized. Officer in default is a person who could be company secretary, whole-time directors, I can say, CEO also. So that means a person जिसकी नजर में सब कुछ था and who is I can say the most non known person जिसकी सारी knowledge थी and he has not done the compliance on time, then he must need to be penalized. अगर उसने proof कर दिया कि okay that has been done I mean without my knowledge, for example if accounts are not prepared on time, then how I can arrange this AGM or something, right? So if the sufficient grounds are there, that is okay, but otherwise the penalty is there for company and for this officer in default both. And for the non-audit, that's a disqualification. Okay, there are certain non-compliances for which your DIN could be disqualified. Not conducting of AGM, or I can say not submission of financial statement with the company, right? And company could also be strike off for continuous doing or default. Okay, so it's good that you need to pay an amount for the compliance, minimal amount for compliance, and non-compliance से आप बच सकते हैं और heavy penalties and disqualifications. Okay, so just a minute. If I can talk about the business forms and what are the general documentation requirement is there. Okay, so for sole proprietorship firm, partnership firm could be registered. These are the from the point of view of Startup India. Okay, these except the sole proprietorship, partnership registered firm, one person company, section 8 company. These are the form of business, and general requirement include your individual documents and also to the document which can help us that okay these are the approval or confirmations. from some government department. Okay, and also we need address proofs. For example, if you are incorporated business on a leasehold land or a rented property or your own property, then you need to submit the bills, right? So from individual point of view, you need PAN, 10, driving license, voter ID, Aadhaar card of individual person as address proof, passport, bank statement, ID proof. Thereafter, for address confirmation, you can go for the lease agreement, rent agreement, then after NOC from the landlord, right? Or I can say a government connection bill, for example, gas bill or electricity bill is there. Okay. Then the business authority letter, for example, if the business is like some sort of subsidiary company is there, and if you are, incorporating company on that lease or premise, then you need to give a authority letter also. Then the partnership agreement, if required, to be incorporated. For example, if there is a partnership firm need to be incorporated, or like I say LLP needs to be incorporated, then the agreement must be signed between them. Other than this, article of association, memorandum of association, ये applicable होते हैं सिर्फ कंपनी के केस में. ओके, जैसे कि एलपी में एग्रीमेंट, पार्टनर्स एग्रीमेंट है, सेम कंपनीज के लिए एओए एंड एमओए. मेमोरेंडम इज कॉल्ड अबाउट ऑल द ऑब्जेक्ट्स एंड आर्टिकल्स में आपके सारे के सारे रूल्स, रेगुलेशन, बाय लॉज, ये सभी लिखे होते हैं. लाइक if you have written who can be managing director, number of meetings required, right, all these things to be written into the article of association. And company आपकी क्या क्या काम कर सकती है, किन ऑब्जेक्ट्स को फुलफिल कर सकती है, ठीक है, ऑल दीज मस्ट टू बी गिवन इन दी एमओए. सेकंड थिंग, आपने अगर एमओए में कोई चीज नहीं लिखी है, फॉर एग्जांपल मैंने एमओए में नहीं लिखा हुआ है कि मैं कल को एक फूड आर्टिकल बनाऊंगा. माय कंपनी इज ए कंपनी व्हिच इज आई कैन से इज ए ट्रैवलिंग एजेंसी, राइट. मैंने उसमें फूड आर्टिकल मैन्युफैक्चरिंग का कोई क्लॉज नहीं लिखा हुआ है. एंड इन केस अगर मैं कल को कोई फूड आर्टिकल प्रोडक्ट करना चाहता हूँ, बनाना चाहता हूँ, सेल करना चाहता हूँ, then this must needs to be entered into my MOA. For this मेरे को MOA अपना रिवाइज करना पड़ेगा, मिनिस्ट्री में फाइल करना पड़ेगा विद दिस न्यू ऑब्जेक्ट, एंड जब अप्रूव हो जाएगा तभी मैं उसे कर सकता हूँ. अदरवाइज इट विल कॉल्ड एज अल्ट्रा वायरस, which is not allowed. Okay. Then we need to have the valid and active DIN. Active DIN because as we already stated that every year directors को या designated partners को अपने आप का DIN का KYC कराना mandatory है. So अगर वो KYC नहीं होगा तो the DIN can get deactivated, and this could be active only after the payment of rupees 5,000. फॉर एग्जाम्पल 30th September इज ड्यू डेट, और आपने 1 तारीख हो गई अपना डिन एक्टिवेट नहीं कराया, केवाईसी नहीं कराया. सो 1 तारीख के बाद में जो आपकी पेनल्टी लगेगी वो आपकी 5,000 पर दिन के हिसाब से लगेगी, चाहे आप 1 को कराएं, 10 को कराएं, 15 को कराएं. इट्स वन टाइम पेनल्टी. सेकंड ईयर फिर से अगर आपने नहीं कराया तो फिर पेनल्टी लगेगी 5,000. 5,000 is fixed amount. Okay. Then DSC for e-verification. Okay. And after this, we also need a type of services and goods which you are providing. Just for example, if you go for GST registration or MSME, you need to know the services which you are providing or goods you are providing. So, okay, now we can go for this next one slide, which is about the various license and government approval. Okay, the first thing, my licenses के बारे में, government approval के बारे में, these all are depend upon your business structure and the jurisdiction part, because certain licenses are there, those are state related. For example, trade license जो सब जगह applicable नहीं है. For example, वेस्ट बंगाल में applicable है, महाराष्ट्र में applicable है, right? So there are certain states जहाँ पे, for example, professional tax, it is not so everywhere applicable, ये भी state based ही है. Okay. And the agriculture marketing act, or let's say मंडी tax जो लगता है आपका. Okay. So we have prepared a general list of licenses जो हर बिजनेस पे एक तरीके से एप्लीकेबल होते ही हैं. And other than this, there are multiple other licenses are there. Those are depend upon a business structure format. Like first thing you need incorporation certificate or a registration certificate of the organization, or I can say of your company. Then shop and establishment registration. Thereafter GST, depend upon the turnover criteria. But as we have already discussed कि अभी आज के टाइम पे unless until आपका GST ना हो, most of the market players आपसे deal करना नहीं चाहेंगे. Okay. ES and EFI under the labor laws. Thereafter trade license, it is state based, not applicable to every state of the country. Then factory license, if you have a factory premises, you must have the factory license, where you need to give the detail of all the employees, or I can say contract labor also. Thereafter, license and environmental laws. If you are having a manufacturing entity or some sort of dispose type of entity, then you must adhere about the environmental laws and policies. Then ISO certification. As of now, I can say all the companies are going for ISO, International Standardization Certificates, just to prove ki, okay, we are having these kind of facility in our premises. Then import export code, which is very general in nature. If you're going for any export services, import services, then you must need this code. Then MSME registration, depending upon the turnover and investment criteria. Okay, for example, if you go for the micro, small or medium enterprise, then FSI registration. If your company into the food manufacturing and related sector, then you can must have the FSI registration certificate or license with you, which could be state or which could be central also. Thereafter, legal metrology, if you are dealing into weights and measures, right? Or if a company is dealing into packaged commodity, for example, if your company is packaging some sort of biscuits, milk or something, paneer or something, and then selling that, that means they are dealing into weight and measures. MRP is there, right? So you must need to get the registration and nomination certificate, okay, from ministries. Thereafter, Government of India marketplace. Okay, GEM registration. As of now, the GEM portal is, I can say, quite in demand. Most of the government tenders are over there. And as a startup and MSME registered entity, you can get the benefit of, I mean, I can say, the first on the priority basis. Your selection could be done on a priority basis on GEM portal. If you are applying for any tender, then you can get up, I can say, one sort of benefit that you can shortlist early. I can say you can get a shortlist earlier than all other forms of news. Then startup recognition, you can apply for Startup India also, and thereafter IPR. You can go for trademark, copyright, patent, trade secret, geographical indication, anything could be like this. So all these are general in nature, all sort of licenses. And if there is anything, for example, drug license, or I can say petroleum license, the petroleum or any sort of manufacturing of any scientific machine, these kind of special businesses, or I can say some sort of businesses which are, I can say, jurisdiction based or something, then you must apply for certain other registrations also. You can also go for professional tax licenses. We talk about the policies part. Next one
uh, I think
is,
yeah,
okay.
we can cover little bit about it as we already have.
Sure, sure.
uh,
So if we are going for the policies part as a company, okay, because first you need a website for the same, right? So once you have the website and you are having your own company or something, then you can go for this particular policy, which includes a CSR policy, then nomination remuneration policy of directors, your whistleblower policy that no one could, go out and talk about this I mean, code of conduct or something about the company. Thereafter, for formal evaluation of the board, then risk management policy, then prevention of sexual harassment at workplace policy, which is mandatory as of, which is more mandatory, I can say. Then directors appointment, remuneration related matters, then qualification, positive attributes and all. Then cyber security policies under the IT Act, and then the occupational health and safety under the new laws, labor laws. Okay. So these are the some sort of major policies जो आप अपनी website पे रख सकते हैं. Okay. So next one, sir.
I think this we have the concluding remark.
Yeah. So on the concluding part, if you are going to choose a startup point of view, your business from a startup point of view, first you need to think startup में कौन कौन सी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन रिकॉग्नाइज्ड हैं फॉर गेटिंग रजिस्टर्ड. thereafter कॉस्टिंग किसकी ज्यादा है कम आएगी. थर्ड थिंग, इन्वेस्टर किससे ज्यादा अट्रैक्ट होते हैं. द मोर थिंग इज प्राइवेट लिमिटेड एंटिटीज. एंड द फोर्थ वन, आपको फंडिंग किसमें सबसे ज्यादा जल्दी मिल सकती है. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, इफ गोइंग फॉर कंपनी, देन यू कैन गो फॉर ऑप्शन फॉर एमएसएमई के लिए आप फंडिंग में जा सकते हैं, स्टार्टअप के लिए फंडिंग में जा सकते हैं, जेम पोर्टल के थ्रू टेंडर अप्लाई कर सकते हैं, राइट. सो प्राइवेट लिमिटेड कंपनी इज वन ऑफ द बेस्ट, आई कैन से, टाइप ऑफ स्ट्रक्चर जो कि स्टार्टअप में बहुत ज्यादा रिकॉग्नाइज होता है, राइट, एंड स्केलेबल ऑल्सो. So I can say this is the ending part from the conclusion things.
Yeah. uh, सो यूजुअली व्हाट वी ऑब्जर्व, कई बार हमने देखा है कि स्टार्टअप्स एक बार कंपनी रजिस्टर्ड करने के बाद नाउ दे फील ओके, एक बार कंप्लायंसेस हो गया है, बट कंप्लायंसेस इज द रेगुलर प्रोसेस.
Yes.
You need to
This
do
is a
it
regular
quarter.
process, event-based process, and also half yearly, annually compliances are there. And once your business on a pace, जब आपका business grow कर जाता है, okay, then certain compliances are applicable on the basis of your turnover limits and also on the basis of your revenue part. राइट? जितना आप ग्रो करेंगे उतना ज़्यादा कंप्लायंस लायबिलिटी आपके ऊपर आएगी, उतना ज़्यादा आपकी जवाबदेही जो है, आई कैन से योर अकाउंटेबिलिटी टुवर्ड्स द सोसाइटी इज ऑल्सो मोर एंड मोर।
Very true. And all the startup, it is very important to understand the basic elements of the compliances. Although आप professional की help ले सकते हैं, and when you plan your strategy, so compliance भी आपकी strategy का एक important element होना चाहिए. And on the on regular basis आपको compliance के लिए भी record keeping करना है, proper documentation करना है.
Reason being simple है, whenever if you are having a private company or I can say LLP also with you, you must go for due diligence and audits, right? And if you don't have any sort of document with you, then this might be personal remarks also. जो आपकी ऑडिट रिपोर्ट जाएगी उसमें रिमार्क्स भी जा सकता है कि आपकी कंपनी में ये डॉक्यूमेंटेशन और ये पॉलिसी आपकी अभी तक नहीं बनी हुई है, ठीक है? देन आपको एक्सप्लेन करना बहुत मुश्किल हो जाएगा, क्योंकि दिस सम सॉर्ट ऑफ कंप्लायंसेस और पॉलिसीज आर मैंडेटरी. If you are not preparing the same, then it may lead to the non compliance जो आपके रिपोर्ट्स में जाएगा, देर आफ्टर ड्यू डिलिजेंस में आएगा, एंड देर आफ्टर यू आर अकाउंटेबल टू दी स्टेक होल्डर्स, आई कैन से शेयर होल्डर्स ऑल्सो. और शेयर होल्डर्स के पास जब ये इंफॉर्मेशन जाती है, सो आई कैन से this will impact to your structure, share structure in the market also.
That's very true. So yeah, all the startups, आज हमने काफ़ी इम्पोर्टेंट टॉपिक स्टार्ट किया है हमारी लीगल वर्कशॉप का. एंड यू वांट टू स्प्रेड योर बिजनेस, यू वांट टू हैव अ स्केलेबिलिटी ग्रोथ इन योर बिजनेस. फर्स्ट यू नीड टू रजिस्टर योर स्टार्टअप इन अ प्रॉपर एंटिटी. देन उसके बाद उस एंटिटी के अकॉर्डिंग आपको अलग अलग कंप्लाइंसेस करना है. एंड वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग इज you always take help from the professional. So once again Lalit, thank you very much. आप आज आपने काफ़ी अच्छे तरीके से ये टॉपिक एक्सप्लेन किया है हमारे स्टार्टअप्स को. एंड या हमारे स्टार्टअप को ये जो बेसिक अवेयरनेस है वो होना बहुत ज़रूरी है, और आपने उसके लिए अपना टाइम दिया. वंस अगेन थैंक यू वेरी मच.
Thank you, Angit, and thank you to the smart Jhansi for giving me this wonderful opportunity to interact with you all and to provide the input on the compliance part. Right.
Thank you
So my
everyone.
details are already there. If you have any query or something, we will definitely get in touch with you.
Thank you Lalit ji, thank you once again.
Yeah. Thank you, Ankit ji. Thank you so much.